Welcome, guys. Super excited. We have an awesome live for you guys today. I can't wait because inside the Joy of Coding Academy, I know our goal is to help you guys get jobs, find careers, level up your coding skills, and all those good things. And so today I am super excited to welcome Liz Baker. She comes to us. She has been an intern inside the Joy of Coding Academy. I've known Liz for a long time. I'm Dr. Emily. I run the Joy of Coding Academy, but I'm a retired university professor. And so I had Liz before I retired. So I've known her for a long time. And one of the coolest things is that Liz has actually gotten to experience what a university structure can look like, and also what a private academy can look like, and the freedom and the resources that we have there. And I'm just super excited to actually hear your take on that, on what that's been like, because the teaching style and the content has been the same. It's just been the vehicle that has changed. And we are just super excited to welcome Liz, because last month she successfully got a awesome, highly paying software development job, right? High fives. So we are like super excited to hear about Liz's process, what she needed to learn, how the process worked. Awesome, guys. Yes, I see some comments. Welcome, Pedro Imbrelio. Awesome to see you guys. Super excited to hear Liz's story. And so I guess, Liz, maybe do you want to tell us just a little bit, briefly about why and how you got into coding in the first place? What brought you here?
Okay, so I actually used to want to go to art school for forever. And what ended up happening was, in high school, I did not take enough art classes to actually make a portfolio and apply to art school once senior year and junior year came around to start applying for colleges. And then I realized this and I was like, oh no, I have to think of something else to do. And beginning of junior year, I took a computer science course for the first time. And my expectations going into it was oh, I'll just take this for fun. It's going to be, whatever it's going to be. I didn't expect anything out of it. And then by the end of the semester, the half of the year, I was like, yeah, this is something I'm going to probably want to do for forever, because, I did want to go to art school, and coding is a lot like art in a sense, except instead of using paintbrushes and pencils, you use a keyboard and you get to create really cool websites or whatever it is that you want to use with your code. So that's why I'm here now. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Liz. I see that theme, art and music. There's a lot of other fields that really lend themselves to coding, and most people don't realize that. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And especially if you're interested in front-end web development, touching on design, right? That can be a really big, really impactful there. So, along your journey, so you had taken some computer science classes, and I know, I worked with Liz, and she had a team-based experience, very similar to the internship, but not identical, very similar to the internship we offer inside the Joy of Coding Academy, where she worked on a team, but the client, it wasn't a great fit. And so I'm just curious, Liz, do you feel like in your college experience that you got what you were looking for? And what other things were you seeing? What kind of skills gaps now looking back were you seeing before you got to the internship?
Let's see. I think you just asked that again. Sorry, my bad.
Sure. No worries at all. So again, it was a big, let me unpack a little bit. Okay. So it seems you wanted to come on the internship, right? So there was something that was missing from your experience, or some kind of skill set. So what kind of skills did you find that you weren't getting in your university courses that you were looking for, that caused you to reach out to even come on the internship?
So my junior year, as you said, I worked for another company that worked with students to work together in teams to produce a product for their administrative multimedia company website thing. It was very disorganized. They had a lot of students working with them, and there was, especially in the division that I was in, there was one big 6-person, 7-person team from the University of Colorado working on the same thing we were working on, and they had the majority of the work, and then they were just kind of giving us the scraps almost. And they weren't really helpful with questions either. I went into this project, with very basic coding classes under my belt. And obviously you do have to take that next step to be able to do more like advanced stuff. But they didn't really understand, I think, where most of us were at. And when we would ask questions, a lot of their feedback wasn't really that hopeful, if I'm being honest with you. It was just like really rough. And Drew doesn't work with that company anymore after you retired, and the other professor came in after his experience with them. He was like, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. This was not helpful. So there's that.
So it can be really hit or miss, like depending on the type of team and the type of client that you're working on, for sure. But were there certain kind of skills that you were looking, like what were you hoping to get? I mean, I know the client experience wasn't what you'd wanted before. What kind of skills were you hoping to get out of that experience?
Just being more confident in my coding ability. That's what I really wanted, like to be able to like look at code and not feel so overwhelmed and be able to like pick it apart a lot easier. And I didn't really get that out of the first like internship experience that I had.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that, Liz, and being so open and honest with us. That is so, so amazing. And I hear it time and time again, like, we get these basic skills and then we go to apply them and we're like, are we good enough? Can we do this? Is this going to happen? Right. And so you're absolutely correct. When you have that client-based experience working on a team, no matter what level your skills are, when you deliver, that just feels so good. Right? Like when you actually deliver on what you're looking to create, and it helps you grow your technology, right? It helps you grow your skills, which is so, so amazing. So let's fast forward a little bit. So Liz has an example of an internship that didn't work out, right? It wasn't the best fit, but the client wasn't a good fit for that. Okay, awesome. So fast forward, you reached out to the Joy of Coding Academy to work on our internship project where we have paying clients. The structure's a little bit different. Were there, did you get that? Do you have that confidence now? I guess that would be the crucial question. Like, do you feel like you've evolved on that front?
Oh, absolutely. I've also gotten a lot better at asking questions. I had to learn to do that for sure. I was 100% the type of person to just like fake it till I make it and suffer in silence and like try to pretend I knew what I was doing, but actually I was like struggling a lot. Reaching out, asking questions, which you guys very, very, very helpful with. There's a lot of, valuable people in this internship, and it's so awesome. And like all my questions are answered. And just anything I have questions with is just explained very thoroughly. And there's also so many opportunities to ask questions too. You guys have like the Web Wednesdays, for example, and all those like and Python Q&As and all that. And there's just a lot of opportunities to just go and like code together. And it's really awesome.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you had that rewarding experience. And it's something that you really wasn't possible in a traditional university structure. Like we had to step outside the university to make this happen. So I'm super excited that you're able to take advantage of that and that it really helped propel you forward and give you that, those skills and confidence to help take you to that next level. Now, I definitely want to talk about the next level because I know a lot of people tuning in are super excited because Liz did it. Yay! And it's you absolutely, when you have the skills and the confidence together, right, it becomes unstoppable. And so we'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey on what that application process could look like, right? Like I know it looks different for everybody. Were there technical interviews? Did you have a connection? Again, we'll dive into the resume and portfolio a little bit. We can get down to nuts and bolts, but just, overall, what was the process like for you? Did it take a long time? Were you slaving away applying, or like, how did it work for you? Can you walk us through it?
So January, I get an email from the Career Center and from another professor that works here with Salcon Technologies, which is where I'm working now, reaching out and saying, hey, or not Salcon, it was Robert March, who works for them now, who also went to Drew. And he reached out saying, hey, we're looking for potential applicants. If you're interested, send your resume and, we'll talk. And I was like, okay, I definitely want a job secured after I graduate because I didn't want that uncertainty, you know what I mean? Of like graduating and then like trying to like find a job, and it was all the uncertainty. I didn't want to deal with that. So I applied. And I heard back within like a couple days. I think I sent my resume in on like a Friday, And then I heard back on Monday, and Rob was like, okay, thank you for your resume. We'll we'll reach back whenever we review. And then literally a couple hours later, I get an email from, it was either head of engineering or it wasn't HR. It was a different department, but they reached out saying, hey, we're interested in interviewing you. Are you free this week? And I was like, this week? Are you serious? I thought I would like send in my resume and then like kind of sit on it for a little, like for at least like a week or two, but it was literally like a couple days I was going to be interviewed, and I was like, oh geez. So I knuckled down and I said, okay, I went to the career center and I did interview prep.
Yep.
Practice questions, all that, especially getting down, like getting comfortable with the, which question? It was the first one they always ask. It's, tell me a little bit about yourself. As soon as you like get really comfortable answering that question, the rest of the interview's like a breeze. Yes. So I had the interview on Zoom. So I got the response Monday. I had the interview Friday. I had that interview on Zoom and it went really well. I found if you turn the charm up to like an 11 and like laugh and smile and like just have a good time with the interviewer, it usually goes pretty well.
Yes, it's about building that rapport. Yes. Oh my goodness. So yes, that is so important. Oh, yes.
And it's awesome to like, what did she say? She asked like, oh, what do you do like outside of school? And I said, oh, I really like snorkeling. And she was like, oh my gosh, me too. And as soon as she said that, we started talking about it and it was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then after Friday, the next Monday, I got another email saying, hey, we want you to come to headquarters. Do you have, are you free this week to come see? And it's in Pennsylvania. So it was like a 50-minute drive. And it was during spring break. So and then Wednesday, I went down to the headquarters and, I met with head of engineering. I met with HR. Well, I met with HR first and they asked me all the questions like, basic HR stuff. Like what kind of benefits are you looking for? Like what sort of like environment do you want to work in?
See, when they're asking those questions, you've got the job. Right. Yeah. You've got the offer at that point.
Then, I should skip forward. The technical interview that I had, I did not. So this company is a public transportation, like engineering company. So we are going to make the software that's going to go into the, into the machines that people are going to use on buses, like driver's logs. They were telling me this one product they made where buses, like double-decker buses, lower when they go under a bridge and raise when they get out of the bridge. And I was like, no way, that's so cool. I want to do that. So the technical interview, this is actually going to be really funny because the main programming language they use is Java and like object-oriented programming. And I have not touched Java in like over 2 years. So they were asking me so I didn't have any specific coding problem that I had to do. I didn't have to do a certain task. They just asked me higher level concept questions. And I'm going to be totally honest, I wasn't able to answer all of them. There was one where they asked me something and I straight up just said, no, I don't know what that is. And I could tell they respected me for it. They were like, oh, that was quick. Okay, fair enough. And they just explained it to me. And I had a little notebook and I was writing it down. So yeah, technical interviews and any interview, I think the best thing to do is just don't pretend like you know what's going on when you don't. I think they're mainly looking for someone who they want to work with instead of the smartest person in the room. So, smile, laugh, have a good time, and just be honest if you don't really know the answer to a question. That was my process. And then I got the job offer. And now I'm sitting good and I'm rolling.
Oh my goodness. So from start to finish, I mean, this sounds pretty fast. What, 2 months?
Not even. It was 2 weeks.
Yeah. 2 weeks to a job.
Crazy fast. I was like, oh my goodness. So January, I got the email. I didn't actually send the resume until 2 months after I got that initial email, but I was in touch with Rob saying, hey, I'm interested. I still need to do like resume building and resume workshopping and all that. I did most of the labor, I would say, was resume workshopping.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that was like solid.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So, and another key point, right? Like, so this is like textbook. This is how you want the job hunt to go, right? You see an ad, you apply, you move through the paces, you get the offer, done, right? Super efficient, super easy, low stress, right? Like, obviously you have to be ready for the opportunity. And Liz, you had done the work, right? You'd invested in yourself, you had the skills, and you were good at building rapport on the interview, which not everybody is, right? So you're really personable. So that was great, but you can practice it, right? These are skills that can be learned. And we work on that inside the Joy of Coding Academy as well. And then you also had a connection, right? So Rob is somebody that you knew already. So you had someone on the inside that knew you. And so that, I think, really, when you go for the easy jobs, like the easy to get jobs, that I think is critical. Like, do you think, I'm assuming you agree that played a role?
Of course.
In the process. Oh my goodness. Not to diminish your talent in any way, because if you weren't qualified for the job, they wouldn't have made the offer, but it helps them. It's a win-win, right? When you have a personal connection, it could be like, someone, or you have a certain skill set that no one else is going to have. Like everything you said, Liz, I feel rings so true. They're looking for someone they want to work with on their team, right? That's reliable, that's going to show up, that's going to be fun to be around. It's not going to be like a bear to kind of work with. Like that's, they're looking for a good coworker. Yes, they also want you technically competent, but at the end of the day, there's a base level of technical competency. And as long as you've got that met, it's all about like, do they want to work with you? Right? Yeah, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, for sure. They had said in the interview that I actually saw Rob when I went to headquarters, and we said hi. It was cool. Awesome. And when I met with head of engineering, that was like we just had a chat. We just had like an hour-long chat, and it was awesome. He said, yeah, we are really happy with the work that Rob has been producing. So we know what Drew University software developers are capable of. So they already, so they said that to me, and I was like, okay, that's real cool.
Right. Because they had one that was amazing, right? Like they already had someone that they really liked. And so, yeah, awesome.
For sure.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So good. So good. I love that. But yes, I'm seeing a chat come in for Braulio. Yes. Knowing people in the industry completely simplifies you getting hired. So I can contrast this. So I have a former student who actually did get the absolute highest starting salary I've personally ever coached a student through. So it was 125. Yeah, it was 125. At least that was his starting offer that he shared with me. But let me contrast. Right. So Liz is sitting at high fives. Awesome. Super happy. Pennsylvania cost of living is good versus New York City. Right. So it's, it's great. And she applied, and 2 weeks later she had a job. Okay. Done. 2 weeks versus. So this particular individual insisted. So what Liz is following is what we talk about inside the Joy of Coding Academy as the warm interview path. There is a connection. Right? We want to grease the wheels and facilitate this. And it works time and time again, because at the end of the day, people want a good coworker. And it's really hard to know from a piece of paper, like a resume or a portfolio, if someone's going to be a good coworker. Like they can tell that you have the skills, but they can't tell what it's going to be like to work with you. And that's part of the reason why working on a team can be so impactful, because now that I know, like, oh, they were able to function on a team with other people. But at the end of the day, it's about that rapport, right? So, okay, warm interview path with Liz. 2 weeks, one application done. Psh, tick the box. And mind you, these students have basically the same preparation, right? It's not like they went through different experiences. Like, I worked with both of them. And so this other individual insisted on the cold interview path, right? Now let's walk you through that, what that can look like. So this was a 2 to 3 month process, applying to over 600 jobs, 600, over 70 technical interviews, about 24 face-to-face interviews, right? This is for personality fit. Now, there was a visa issue here, right? So what does that mean? Let me just let you know that it did make the job hunt harder, because this individual needed to be sponsored, and not every company is willing to sponsor a visa for people who are so he was here as a student, but originated from a different country. And so that does increase his cost, right? So benefits on an employee, you might get paid 100K, but your benefits are going to be 50K. Someone with a visa, probably gonna be another 50K on top of that, right? Like, so they're more expensive to sponsor that. So they really have to want you. But he did ultimately get the highest paying salary that I have ever seen from a student that I've personally worked with. The range of salaries for software developers just starting out is typically between 40K and 150K. So a huge range. You could drive a bus through that one. He was 125, like super high. But the process, oh my goodness, right? Like, because Liz, in a year or two, you might love it and you just want to stay. You're going to get raises, right? I know Rob, I know they petitioned extra hard with the administration to get him a higher salary. So he is a really well-respected, and he was respected before he even got in the door at that particular company. But you're going to get raises. And in 2 to 3 years, you can level up to senior software engineer. You can either stay there or go somewhere else. And then you're in the high 100s, 200, 300K is typical for senior software engineer. So, right, like, so you took 2 weeks, had this super easy, simple job search. Now you get a couple years experience under your belt. You have opportunities for raises and moving up. Or we can like insist on doing it the hard way and applying to every job under the sun, doing every technical interview, going on every face-to-face interview, and taking months and months and months of nail biting of like, oh my goodness, will they like me? Will I be a good fit? And one and done, right? It can be that easy. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is it can be that easy. And these particular individuals had the same learning experiences, right? They went to the same program. Like it wasn't like these were different. But I think also one thing that I think probably is in your favor, Liz, is you're very, very personable. And so I think that definitely, right. Like it plays a factor, right? There was a connection there. So there was the connection provides the opportunity, but then Liz had to have the rapport building to, kind of be charming, right? Your own words, and the technical like prowess to actually be like capable at the job, and the confidence to be able to articulate that, right? Would you say that, the confidence you built on that internship and like delivering working software to a client, at least inside the Joy of Coding Academy internship experience, the other one accepted, do you think that confidence, came through? What role did it play on the interview for you?
Oh, absolutely. They had the classic, what's a problem that you solved and how did you solve that? They had one of those, and I was so ready. I'm like, I have so many stories. I could go on about like all the problems that I've solved. It was awesome. And I like really got into the nitty gritty of like, oh, this function wasn't working and or not that it wasn't working, but it was different than this one. I had to change it so that my code changes would work and all this stuff. And they were nodding. They're like, wow, yeah, very impressive. Very nice.
Right. Because they know, right? They recognize someone who's been there, who's done it. You don't need this huge portfolio or resume, right? You just need to be able, like in a quick casual conversation with the words you use, how you talk about it, like the process you follow. It's obvious. Oh yeah. Okay. She knows what she's doing. Right. Yeah. Like, and it's just a conversation. It's a few sentences, like casually, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't have to be a lot, and yes, exactly. And it totally helps the interview go easier and helps you relax, having that confidence. And really the fastest path to having that confidence is doing it. Mm-hmm. And the other one is conversing about it, having dialogue, which is partly the reason why, like it's the best way to educate is to, have a dialogue. And that's like a huge part of the Joy of Coding Academy internship experience that Liz was experiencing that helped her get that confidence, right? Is that we're asking questions, we're coming to Q&As, we're working together, right? We're working through problems, we're working on a team, and it's just, right? You have the technical skills and then you have the ability to articulate and communicate. And that's just next level. I love this. Oh, thank you so much for sharing, Liz. And just so everybody else knows, what I've been hearing, like from the recruiter I was talking to, who's a recruiter in the area. And I know recruiters like can be hit or miss, but this is a really rock solid recruiter. He's also a cloud engineer, so he doesn't just help people get jobs. He does it himself too. Like awesome guy. And he was saying that like what he's hearing he's connected to over 200, almost 300 hiring managers in tech all over the New York metro area. And he said that, people that can articulate and communicate is actually what's setting them apart. And that's what's getting them the job. So it's not just about the technical skills. Like you have to have those first. Like if you don't have them, okay, game over. But once you have them, what can make it easy and really set you apart, as Liz has demonstrated so beautifully in her job experience, is being able to articulate and communicate and talk about those ideas. So thank you so much, Liz, for sharing that story. Now, I know, if people have questions, like please pop them in the chat and I'll happily get to them. I know one thing I wanted to ask Liz, because I feel like I've been getting this question a lot. I get a lot of people coming in and saying, oh, I'm working on my portfolio. And I'm thinking to myself, but I happen to know that all the students that I've seen graduate and get amazing jobs don't have much of a portfolio. Right? And so I would love to share someone who actually did successfully go through that process to see, like, okay, you had a team-based experience and, you had some kind of portfolio, but would you say like how many projects do you have on your GitHub profile, for example? Like, I think it's like 1 or 2 you said, right?
Like 2. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, that's typically what I see on most students who successfully get jobs, because a lot of the technical expertise is found in other ways, right? By the tech interview and by that conversation of like, okay, give me a technical problem that you solved. Like the sophistication of the problem and the solution and how closely it aligns with your job is way more important than the portfolio, I would think. I don't know. What role do you think the portfolio played? Do you have any sense of that at this point, in your job process?
They didn't see my portfolio, if I'm being totally honest with you. I never sent them my GitHub. They never asked for it. So it wasn't actually a part of the interview process at all.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So there's that.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that, Liz. It's possible to get a job without even a portfolio. I think in your case, a solid resume and a really solid connection probably are part of the reason for that, because you had someone on the inside who would vouch for you, right? And that is super impactful, right? Is like knowing someone who knows someone, like, okay, be like, hey, they've got the skills. Awesome. Come on in. Let's interview you. Yep. It sounds like you got the skills. Awesome. Let's get to work, right? Like they're ready. They don't want to be interviewing. They want to be doing, they want to be building and creating that software. And so, and it's interesting because I mean, if you're in the design space and you're doing, UX, user experience, UI stuff, like art design, yes, you probably need a portfolio. But for most coders, a portfolio is simply your GitHub profile with a couple projects on it. That's it. Right? Like you've proven that you know how to use Git. You've proven that you can use some technologies, but most of the interview might take place elsewhere and be based in your experience. And so I just want to caution that, because literally every week I get people telling me, oh, I'm not applying for jobs yet because I'm working on my portfolio. And I'm thinking, we got to get the word out on this. That it is not necessary. And if you think about it, senior software engineers after their first job, nobody has a portfolio, because your code is all hidden. It's proprietary. It's owned by your company. It's only entry levels that even need the portfolio at all. And so it's not necessarily a standard component to this interview process. I mean, maybe it is if you're applying to, like, if you're doing the cold interview path that I explained before, where you're applying to like 600 jobs, like, yeah, okay, your portfolio might matter there. But I don't know about you, but I want the Liz path where like 2 weeks done, warm interview path, man, every day. Because then, like, I love how you said this, Liz. You're like, you didn't have to be the best technically. You were a good coworker. Already they could tell you'd be fun to work with, right? Awesome. That's great, Liz. And you had enough technical expertise and you had a connection. So you had someone who could vouch for you. And like the amount of time investment, imagine if you invested, instead of applying to 600 places that aren't going to look at your resume, imagine if you applied to like 1 or 2 and you actually made sure that you had some kind of a connection there. Right? And it might take you days to build that connection, or if you didn't already have it, but like, imagine the power of that, of having, and you can make connections cold, but the key is having that connection before to facilitate that job process. It just goes like, basically you can demonstrate that you're someone they'd like to work with before you apply for the job. So the person in there is pulling you in. And to be honest, I've done that in most of my career as well. Like I got into schools and programs where I didn't meet any of the requirements, but they wanted to work with me. So here we go. Easy peasy. I love this. Awesome. Awesome, Liz. Liz, do you have any other insights to share? Like a lot of people in the group, they're looking for that first position. They're learning how to code. do you have any, suggestions or advice and guidance? I know you chose the computer science degree path, but not everybody needs a degree to become a developer. Do you have any suggestions for how people can, go after that first position?
Let's see here. I think number one most important thing is ask questions. When you're in that when you're in this environment, for sure, if you have like an issue with coding specifically, ask questions. And also don't pretend that you know what you're doing when you don't. Because that's what really, like, that's what the interviewer people were telling me. It was what really like slows things down when people like, when people aren't honest with what they know and what they don't know. And I think even in this industry too, in any industry really, people they want to present as someone who is intelligent and knows what they're doing. Obviously, everyone wants that, but I think it's more important to be honest when you don't know what's going on. I used to struggle with that a lot. I used to be like, yeah, I need to be the person that's technically smart and knows what she's doing right off the gate, like right out of the gate, and someone who people can trust like immediately. But even going into any new position, really, you're not going to know what's going on. I know I talked to David, which is the same person Emily was talking about with the cold interview process. And some of his advice, which I think is super helpful, is the first like 6-ish months or so in any new like software job, you're not actually going to be working on any code per se. They're going to give you small projects to work on just so you could like build up the specific technical skills that you're going to need for that job specifically. So a lot of the time they're not really, like, recruiters aren't really expecting you to know what you're doing right out of the gate. They just really want someone that they're gonna like working with and has like basic technical knowledge that you can build off of. Because a lot code and projects, so much code, so many like little things, and they don't want new hires breaking it and messing it up. So they want to like acclimate you slowly. So it's not saying it's low stakes, but it's not so much pressure,
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Liz. And thank you for being open about, the importance of asking questions, right? Because that is how we learn. But the risk is we have to admit that we don't know it. Right. And that, I feel you, man. I get into that. I totally get into that too. And I think, you had mentioned confidence before, Liz. And I think, some of us, we've talked in the group before about imposter syndrome. And I feel like these things are related, right? So like if you feel like an imposter, you don't have confidence and you don't want to ask questions because it's challenging to feel like you don't know. You already feel like you don't know. And asking a question is like, upscaling that, right? You're up leveling that. It's like, no, I don't want to ask a question. But when you're centered and grounded and you're comfortable in your knowing, right? Now you can ask a question and now you can actually improve and get better. Right? If you're struggling, if you're stuck in that model of, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not here. I don't have confidence. I feel like an imposter. I don't want to ask questions. I can't ask questions because, oh my goodness, someone's going to figure out that I don't belong here. Right? Like, I don't know, this is not necessarily your talk, but these are things that I know I've self-talk I've heard in my own head. Right. And so it's like, but when you can have that just base level of comfort, right? Wherever that is. And this is why when I learned to code, it happened in a moment. I didn't know anything more before and after, but the confidence changed, which is partly how we've designed the Joy of Coding Academy, is to give you the skills that'll lead you to the confidence and create those moments for you so you can have that confident experience delivering. Oh my goodness. So thank you so much, Liz, for sharing this. This is awesome. I think there was a question I just want to answer. I think it was a question on your portfolio. So Braulio was asking, 2 projects in different languages of code will land you the job. He was wondering what your projects were. Now, we had been chit-chatting before the interview. So Liz, you had said your 2 projects, one was like an Android app, and then you had something else.
Yeah, it's a Pokemon game.
A Pokemon game. What language was the Pokemon game? Just out of curiosity.
Oh my gosh, I think it's Ruby. Pretty sure. That's what that is.
2 totally different languages, not very big. And to be honest, Braulio, she didn't even share them with the employer that she got hired by, but she had them, right? So I think having some diversity of experiences, right? Having experience in a couple different languages, So I think Liz had experience probably in Ruby and Android, Java development, JavaScript, front end, so Java as well. So you had like a good variety of languages. And I think regardless of whether it shows up on your portfolio or not, it comes out in how you answer questions, because now you're being more general, which is something that they would obviously look for, because it means you're adaptable, you can learn easily, right? Like all these good things that employers want. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, cool. Awesome, awesome. I love it. Yes. Any other final questions for Liz while we have her here? Because man, she's gonna get that. She's got that job and she's getting out of town, man. No. I love it. Oh, thank you again, Liz. We were so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing. And we just, we wish you the best. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any other questions or thoughts about if you'd like, a supported experience to help you gain that confidence and really land a job like Liz did, again, Dr. Emily from the Joy of Coding Academy, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm sure there's a link somewhere where you can reach out and contact us. All right. And Liz is in the group. So if you have questions on this, like if you're watching this after the fact, not in the live, just, post your questions and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Awesome, guys. Awesome. I see good luck's coming in, and congrats for Liz. So thank you so much. We love it. So, so good. And have an awesome, awesome rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye.